Hey guys, welcome to another Versus video. I'm Todd Anderson, joined today by Brian Brown Doing.
Hello.
Today we're going to be doing some new standard decks featuring M15, the new core set that comes out in just a few weeks. A lot of really cool cards in the set. I'm pretty excited to brew with them.
Yeah, I think this is probably like the best core set since like M8 or M9.
Those weren't things.
Okay. Well, it's probably the best core set then.
Yeah. But yeah, we are using a good, healthy number of some reprints, some new cards, trying out all sorts of new strategies. Me in particular, I'm going to be playing Mono Green Devotion. We're going over that in the deck tech right now, and then we'll get to Brian's deck immediately after that. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so if you take a look at this deck, this is just regular old Mono Green Devotion for the most part. We are not playing quite as many Mana Accelerators and Sylvan Caryatid. Instead, just playing Elvish Mystic and Voyaging Satyr. Now, the reason why I'm doing that, and it's basically just one reason, so I can play more forests in my deck, because of Nissa, the World Waker. What do you think about Nissa, Brian?
I thought some of the other Zelda games were better, but no, I think Nissa's really good.
I wanted to make a pun about that. I'm really glad you did.
Yeah.
That's sweet. But Nissa's ability are all pretty powerful. She basically can cost effectively just 1 mana. When you play her, you can untap 4 forests and then use that mana to do stuff. Or if you get to untap with her, and then you get to add 4 extra mana to your mana pool, essentially, to do really interesting, big, powerful things like Court of Calling, casting a Garruk, making a Genesis Hydra, pumping a bunch of stuff with Nylea, just all sorts of crazy
Hornet
stuff.
Queen.
Yeah, casting Hornet Queen. But her other ability is also a +1. It's turn any land into a 4/4 creature. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about that land over there in the corner that just so happens to have a special ability?
Destroy effects and lethal damage, don't destroy it.
Yeah, so you might be wondering why I'm playing a colorless land in my mono green deck that's not Nykthos, and that's because Nissa can turn Darksteel Sigil into a 4/4 indestructible, which is really good against decks that feature things like Hero's Downfall, Doomblade, or Supreme Verdict. Having an indestructible creature is pretty huge. Now, it will be a little taxing on the mana base sometimes, so I don't want to play too many of them, but I do want to start off with one just to see if it's worth having. The first time it screws me, though, I'm probably just going to cut it completely from the deck and just say it's not worth it. But the rest of the deck is pretty much par for the course for these Mono Green Devotion decks. We're doing like Burning Tree Emissary into virtually nothing, just as a guy who can chain off and cast a Voyaging Satyr on 2, or on turn 3 you can go Burning Tree into Corsair of Krufix, but he just adds to Devotion while allowing you to continue to play other things. He
also provides you with a net of 1 additional mana if you're Court of Calling.
That is true. That's a really good point as well. Court of Calling is not going to be utilized in this deck as well as it will be in some other decks that people build with this card, but we do have a couple little cool things we can do with it. It's either just like Pull Kranos' like 5 through 8 against decks where you just always want to have a Pull Kranos.
Yep.
It goes and gets Arbor Colossus against things like Desecration Demon. It can use that and fight and kill them with its monstrous ability, or just block like an army of 1/1 flyers if some people play like some deck that has that. Can go get a Hornet Queen to provide you with a bunch of threats against a mono black deck that's trying to spot removal you to death. Or it can go get a Nylea, God of the Hunt, and give all your guys trample. A lot of versions of Mono Green Devotion played 2 or even 3 copies of Nylea, and I just don't think it's really worth that, because she's really good when you draw 1 of her.
Yep.
And she's really, really, really bad when you draw 2, because you need all your other cards to turn her on. You can make the same argument for something like Pull Kranos, but I think that his ability is just too good, and if they don't kill him, then they're going to lose anyway. Whereas they don't have to deal with Nissa, they just have to deal with your other things.
Yeah, exactly.
And then last but not least, we have a Reclamation Sage, which is basically just Viridian Shaman, but can also kill enchantments. Pretty sweet tutor target for Court of Calling. The other new card that is experimental and probably really bad, but still kind of awesome, is Genesis Hydra. Now, this guy, if you don't know what he does, it's green X to create an XX creature, and then you look at the top X cards of your deck, choose a non-land permanent from those, and put it into play. And as you can see, every card in this deck that's not a land is a non-land permanent aside from Court of Calling. So if we do this for 6, we get to look at the top 6, find a Garruk, find a Nissa, find an Arbor Colossus, Pull Kranos, something, put it into play. Kind of like 2-for-1ing your opponent for the most part, but it's not that bad to cast for like 5 or 6 mana. Sometimes you hit like a Corsair of Krufix, or even just like Burning Tree Emissary into, like activate Nykthos or cast Court of Calling or something. There's lots of cool stuff you can do with the card. It does not really work well with Court of Calling, obviously, because it's a 0/0 to start with, but we have a ton of mana in this deck and we need stuff to do with it. So,
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is the main deck for Mono Green Devotion. Let's go and take a look at the sideboard and then get to Brian's sweet deck.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so to start off with the sideboard, 4 Nightly's Disciple, because who likes to play against mono red? I don't.
Neither do I.
I don't think you do either. We want to punish them. We want to gain 6, 12, 100 life. You know, that's a lot. I know, but still, we want to gain as much life as possible, get out of range of burn spells and/or dying to small creatures. One more Arbor Colossus. They can come in against Desecration Demon decks, but since we have 4 Chord of Callings, I don't think it's necessary to play 2 in the main, but sometimes they do have the removal spell for it. Sometimes you just want to cast it on curve, play it on turn 4 or 5 off a mana guy, and then activate its ability on turn 5 or 6.
It's also good against good old Storm Breath Dragon.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
Swats that boy out of the air.
A Singleton Sylvan Primordial, because sometimes we just got to blow up a Planeswalker. 3 Mistcutter Hydras that are great against Mono Blue Devotion as well as Blue-White Control. A Singleton Phyrexian Revoker to go get with Chord of Calling to lock down Elspeth, to lock down Pack Rat, lock down all sorts of stuff. This guy, I think, is going to be pretty awesome. The only downside to him is that you cannot name a land with his ability, which means you're not going to ever be able to shut down Underworld Connections. And that actually came up in my video earlier this week with Brad, because I was not able to do that. But it was still very good against Elspeth.
Yeah, and on the flip side, you can shut down Sylvan Caryatid and Elvish Mystic and things like that. You can't do that with Pithing Needle.
That's a really good point. There is argument to be made to play this in the main deck, but since I'm so focused on building my devotion, I didn't want to waste a slot on a colorless creature. But it is possible that it does deserve main deck consideration simply because it can shut down Elspeth, which is a crazy good card against you because all your guys are gigantic monsters.
Yeah.
We have 3 Citizen Tactics that come in against Mono Blue Devotion. Any sort of like weenie aggressive deck has a way to just wrath their board without usually killing any of your guys, which is really cool. Very, very powerful card. Especially strong when you have, you know, like 3 or 4 creatures in play and a Nykthos to be able to just have enough mana to target all of them. With Strive. And then 2 Unravel the Ether. This can come in a number of matchups, but mostly it's to stop things like Nissa, or not Nissa, what's her name? Blue God, Thassa. They all sound the same. Shuts down Thassa, takes care of Detention Spheres, all sorts of different artifacts and enchantments. It's possible that this card should be more copies of Reclamation Sage, but I like the ability to take care of Nissa since that's one of the easiest ways for that deck to beat you. If you can stop their Master Ways with Tactics and stop their Thassas with Unravel, then you should be good to go.
It's also like you can get coursers and stuff too. Like if there's a card on top of their deck and you don't want them to draw it, you can unravel their courser to shuffle them away.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that is Mono Green Devotion. That's all for me. Let's take a look at Brian's deck.